Hello, Polk County. My name is Derek, and I'm with the Itemizer-Observer. The other day, I was in Monmouth, and I noticed that there was a for sale sign in the window of Crush Wine Bar. So I decided to sit down with the owner, John Bracken, and find out what his plans are moving forward. So he pulled up his bus, invited me in, and we sat down and talked. The following is Bracken's story and what's coming up for Crush Wine Bar, or now Crush Wine Tours.
My name's John Bracken. I own Crush Wine Tours and Crush Wine Bar. Crush Wine Tours is a something we wound up adding on to the portfolio with Crush Wine Bar to help generate traffic both for the wine bar but also for the local wineries. It was an idea based on the beauty of the wine industry, which is that they're so cohesive. They work together to raise the tide, to raise all boats. They all help each other out. They don't have that competitive nature. And I knew if I could tap into that in helping them, that something like it's got to be good for everybody. So so that's how we came up with the idea of the tours and the wine bar, switching it all to local wines when we decided to go that route. So
What led to you selling the wine bar?
finding out that the tours was in line with my passion. One of the main drivers for me wanting to do well and be successful is so that I could experience as much as I can that this world has to offer. And it dawned on me one day that the tours are in line with that. They are an experience, and they are something that will create memories. And for some people, it may be a once in a lifetime. For others, it may be something they start doing every birthday because they love it so much. But either way, it's more one of those fun, longer lasting experiences that drives me. And so that's when I decided that I need to focus on the tours more than the restaurant. When the restaurant takes up infinitely more time than the tours, keeping me from being able to spend the time on the portion or the business that I am more passionate about and more excited about. And so that and realizing one day I'm getting paid to do this, that to me is what I've been looking for since a conversation with my very best friend. Said that he was having troubles with work, and he's saying that it was such a shame because he wakes up every morning, he looks forward to going to work, and not many people can say that, and I've admired him since then. And for me, that moment brought me back to that conversation with that friend, and I realized this is where I need to spend my time. Right now, I spend way more time in the wine bar. It's a lot of moving parts, and if anything if it's a small enough operation that if any one person is missing, it hurts everybody, the whole customer experience. Where so with staffing being such an issue these last few years, as a lot of business owners know, as a lot of consumers know, they've experienced the repercussions of places being short-staffed, cutting back hours, not having as many options available for people. With the staffing issues, it's required me to be there almost all the time, and so that's why we've done no advertising with the tours, unfortunately.
So when it comes to staffing your tours, how many people do you need for that?
Well, the nice thing about that up till now has been that we only have 2 vehicles, so we can only book 2 things at a time. Of course, we're expanding that, but it's easy to find real easygoing, friendly people that have either retired or have a main job during the day and the weekdays, and can pick up a little extra fun, easy money on the weekends, which is where we get most of the demand for the tours at this time. So less staffing. If we don't have the staffing, we can just not book at the moment, but we plan. I'm sure that'll still will always be a thing, staffing maybe. I just have experienced less problems on the tour side, a little bit more availability of a different kind of working demographic, employee demographic.
What is required to operate the bus full of people who have been drinking? Is there a I know, like the trolley that's new here in town, they have to have a passenger permit on their driver's license.
Oh yeah.
So I'm asking,
yeah,
what kind of requirements from the DMV? Do you have to have a class B, class?
Our next vehicle, our next purchase, we're getting a vehicle with a bigger capacity. Right now, the vehicles that we have are 14 passenger and less, and that doesn't require any special driver's licenses. Once you go to over that, then yeah, you have to have it's not a full Class A semi-driving CDL, but it is an in between. I believe they call it a Class B, and allows you to drive more passengers, but not 3 trailer semi-truck tractor trailer combo. So there is that requirement. And then outside of licensing and insurance and everything, just patience. And be able to see the humor in people's, rowdiness or goofiness or whatever. And it takes a special kind of person. But.
So are you one of the drivers?
I am. Yeah.
So does it get bad back here sometimes? Like you have a bunch of intoxicated people. I mean, obviously they're doing the right choice by getting a ride to these places, to these vineyards, not hitting the road on themselves. But one rowdy story. One rowdy story?
Oh boy.
You can leave names out too.
I'll save them the embarrassment. But we get a lot of requests for a pull. Now we specifically chose a vehicle for these wine tours, one without a pull, to go a little bit more on the classy route. We do forewarn people during the reservation process and before we take off that day that we want them to have the full experience of the usually 3 wineries that we go to. We want them to be able to make it to the 3rd winery and not be a complete nuisance to them, or just not get turned away, because that can be a thing. So we do forewarn our guests. We want you to have fun. We want you to get a little bit tipsy. That's what we're here to be your drivers, so that you don't have to worry about that too much. But 1 or 2 people get overly intoxicated, come stumbling out of the bus at the 3rd stop. They see that, and they may just turn the whole group away. So we do warn them, like, hey, we want you to have fun, get a little tipsy even, but let's know our limits, and let's help each other sort of drink water if we need to, so that we don't ruin it for the rest of the people on the bus, that the rest of their friends or family. So they can experience the third stop, and that they don't ruin it for them.
So, have you ever been turned away, or had any groups turned away?
I think that our reputation with the wineries, that we do a good job of helping guide the group in that keep it cool lane, so to speak, that we get a little bit of leeway if something does come a little bit out of line, than if we were bringing people all the time that were like that, or bringing people to 4 or 5 wineries for the day and people just trashed. We have been warned that they don't want any groups like that again from one or two places, and we totally understand that, and we do try to order the wineries in a way that the real quiet, fancy, higher expectations of their customer places we go to first. Sometimes those are the ones that have wines that you want your palate really acute for anyway, so it actually works out really nice that we go to wineries that have good wine but aren't the $90 plus places that by the time you're a little tipsy you don't care as much what you're tasting. So we try to, but that also falls on the customer experience. We want them to get the full benefit of tasting and appreciating everything that they can. So there's a reason for the order and for the way we lay out the winery, or where we put breaks in the tour for some food or some water, or something to bring them back down to ride that line. We want them to ride that line, but not get too rowdy.
So with that, is there a list of wineries you work with, or is there a specific 3 that you go to? Can you maybe expand on, like, offer 4 or 5 wineries?
What the options are? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have 2 types of tours. One of them is the private kind. We come and pick you up wherever you want to get picked up, like at your home or at a restaurant that you want to wind up at the end, where you can eat and drink water and sober up before driving home. That's something that we always recommend. We get you started and stop where you can safely. Where people don't get impatient in a parking lot and jump in the car and go. Those private ones, we can go anywhere in Oregon. We don't go interstate, but anywhere in Oregon that they want to go, and it doesn't have to be wineries. It can be wineries, local cider houses, breweries. We can mix it up. Anything. The options are unlimited on those. Then we have the joinable tours, and those are a really popular thing. We're a really popular thing before COVID, and we're just about to launch those again. And that is where we set up the tour. We choose the locations, in which case we, at this location, as of now, we're doing the Polk County wineries, and then a couple that are just right on the outskirts of that are still close. So kind of within a 22-mile radius. We rotate the wineries, and we go to 3 a day. And right now we're going to be doing them on Sundays. So every Sunday, you can go to our calendar, click on the calendar. It'll show you what 3 wineries we're going to that day and how many seats are left. And you can just buy 1 seat on the bus or 3 seats, and we're going whether we have 2 people on the bus or the whole thing is full at 14. So we set up the reservations ahead of time, so you don't have to do any of the planning, and you don't have to worry about any of the driving. You just pay for your $45 seat and lunch if you want to grab lunch. Sometimes we'll have a place that will offer lunch, so we won't do packed lunches those days. But we have, I believe, about 24 wineries that we're working with in Polk County. And so you can go 8 Sundays in a row and not hit the same winery twice. So it's not like something you do once and you've done it. We're working on some passports and some perks to filling your passport with those 24 wineries. So we're going to figure out something with the local businesses and local wineries as like a prize if you fill your whole passport. So that'll be an exciting thing too.
So I was going to ask you mentioned $45 gets you a seat on the bus. What's that? Mm-hmm. What's that all get you? I mean, I think a ride's like a huge portion of it, but
well, it gets you your transportation for the day, the whole day. from our starting point to our ending point, which is going to be at the Independence Hotel. So, and they'll usually launch around 11 a.m. We'll usually get back around 5:30. So it's a full day, much cheaper than an Uber, much classier than an Uber, much more fun than an Uber. And one of the really funny, the reason I say more fun than an Uber, other than that you're on a party bus where you can, or we call it a limo bus, because it doesn't have the pole, it's fun because you get to meet other people with similar interests. And for the most part, when we're on our way to the first winery, people are just kind of drinking their mimosas or whatever it is that they picked up at the pickup spot. But by the time we get to the second winery, there's more chatter amongst the different groups. And then
as there would be.
Yes, exactly. And by the time we're going from our second stop to our third stop, they're all like best friends. The whole group is like one big group. They're all sharing bottles and charcuterie boards and all sorts of things with each other. It was an unexpected pleasantry to say that I didn't anticipate originally.
So when it comes to writing, they fund their whole tasting experience, though. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. So it also, that's a very good point. Yeah. It doesn't include the tasting fees, which you can get waived, as a lot of people know that have been to a tasting room before. Most wineries have some sort of purchase that you can make to get your tasting fee waived. So tasting fees these days are on average in this area about $20 a stop. So that is a cost that you want to anticipate, but those can also be shared amongst a couple if they're not sure that they're going to like the wines at a particular place, or they offer wines that maybe they're a white drinker and this place only has reds, and so they're like, well, we don't want to get two tastings and we can share one. Or you can do none, or you just buy a glass and hang out, or you can just sit back and not participate but sit at the table with them. Those are all options, but with most wineries, if you buy a bottle or two bottles, or you buy $40 worth of wine or something, they'll waive that $20 tasting fee. And so it is something you can get around a little bit.
So you mentioned earlier you go everywhere in Oregon on the private tours, right?
Yes, anywhere. Yes.
Anywhere. So what would that look like as far as cost when it comes to that?
Okay, the costs. So right now we are the least expensive limo bus in the valley, and we're $150 an hour for, and it usually takes, if you do an all-day tour for 3 wineries, 11 to 5 or so when the wineries are open, 6 hours, as you can do the math, about $900. But when you divide up that $150 an hour by 14 people, that's under $11 an hour per person. And so it's actually pretty affordable if you're filling it. Now, if you're only putting 6 people in it, then you divide it up by less people, right? But for the most part, it can still be less expensive and less of a hassle than Ubers or Lyfts, which a lot of people find, and we get a lot of calls from wineries about this, that people can get an Uber from town out into the country, but they can't get one back because the drivers set up their zone where they like to pick people up from, and it doesn't include way out there in the country, so they don't even get the notification that there's somebody out there needing a ride. So we do get a call every once in a while to come pick up some people that Ubered out and just simply couldn't get a ride back.
You pick them up in the bus?
We'll pick them up. Well, if it's depending on the size of the group. We also have the stretch limo. It's good for 6 to 7 people. At 8, if they're all not my size. I'm 6'4", 235 pounds, and so 8 people is kind of crowded. But usually we do that one, and that one's only $100 an hour. It only takes an hour round trip to get to most people around here. So we just do like a 1 hour, pickup sort of thing, and usually by then they've tried so many people, and I hate charging anything to help people that are in a bad situation, but they're just so appreciative that somebody will come get them, and then they get to do it in class too. So it's a nice little capper to their day, so to speak.
So you mentioned you're working on one more vehicle, getting one more vehicle. Anything after that in expanding your fleet?
Yeah, so we're there's a lot of stuff on the horizon. We're going to get the larger vehicle to handle larger groups, which will help us a lot with like wedding transports, helping people get from the wedding venue to their hotels safely. We're getting a lot of requests from that, a lot of requests that were larger groups than what we could handle. We'd have to make too many trips with the 14 passenger bus, and so we've got 30 passenger on the horizon. We also have a smaller, even smaller vehicle in our sights right now. We're going to have a luxury car for 2 to 3 passengers. It's like a standard sedan, but with some really special features like reclining, massaging, rear air conditioned and heated seats, privacy shades and everything. Real luxurious car for people that just want 1 or 2 people, going around for their own little wine tour that day. So we've got that also on the horizon, and then we've got some funding coming in that we believe will allow us to open up another location in Yamhill County. Let's start a launch from the Carlton area, so we can hit up Newburgh and Dundee and McMinnville area. So
the brick and mortar store is going away, but Crush Wine Tours is expanding.
Yes. Yep.
All right. That's good to know.